The SCADA system overseeing a city's water supply has many levels of security to keep out actual and virtual intruders. But in any complex SCADA system, backdoors can sometimes be found.
SCADA systems are made out of computers and communication systems that are the same as the ones we use at home. We see standard viruses that impact standard computers working their way into the SCADA system and infecting the computers that are running the SCADA system. I'll give you an example of exactly that sort of thing going on. A teenager learned how to basically control the transit in a city in Poland, basically by sending signals into the track switching gear.
Using a customized remote control, he turned the city's tram system into his own personal toy, derailing 4 cars and triggering chaos.
No one was killed, but it's a good example of here's a very complex system, and here's somebody playing with it. We've got this efficiency, we've got this ability to run bigger systems, but with it, there's a higher risk that one little thing will cause a catastrophic failure.
Yet, SCADA systems are now essential for controlling the complex infrastructure critical to supporting modern society.
Without the SCADA system, we are not going to have the society we have come to know and love. We're not going to have the quality of water, we're not going to have the consistent power, we're not going to have the oil and gas that we want, our airports won't work, our cell phones won't work. We've got to make the SCADA systems tougher against outside attacks. There's that potential that somebody could deliberately do things to upset our way of life.
Big systems run by SCADA can be vulnerable to outside attack. But what happens when the subversion comes from inside, from the very people who control the system? The internet spans the globe, like a universal brain. True to its name, the World Wide Web is ubiquitous and accessible to anyone with a connection. Or is it? In some countries, free access to information is seen as a threat that needs to be restricted. Take China, where internet use is exploding, and the government is reacting with its own cyber censorship.
China ranks as the most pervasive filter of internet content in the world. There's no doubt about that.
Ron Diebert is director of the Citizen Lab at the University of Toronto, a research and development think tank monitoring the clash between the internet and human rights in countries like China.
There are active insurgencies in remote parts of the country. There are independence movements, autonomy movements, banned religious movements. So they have a variety of social, cultural, and political problems that they're trying to control. Many people have been jailed for writing things that are contrary to Chinese security policy on blogs. People have been arrested for organizing demonstrations. So we have to be very, very careful about security.
How careful? China's Ministry of Public Security is thought to employ tens of thousands of cyber police to patrol the net. They're part of a formidable billion-dollar surveillance and censorship program called the Golden Shield.
Well, China blocks in a lot of overlapping ways.
Nart Villeneuve is Citizen Lab's Director of Technical Research.
Well, when we looked at how China was blocking internet access, we focused on the international gateway level. These are the limited number of connection points that connect China to the rest of the internet.
No matter where you connect from in China, at some point your traffic is going to pass through one of 3 international gateways at the backbone level, the most foundational level of China's internet.
These are kind of choke points where if you implement blocking in those places, it affects millions of people behind them. But we also think that China is blocking at other levels, at the more local level, at internet service providers, and possibly at regional networks, and for sure at internet cafes.
Any requests for information, if they contain banned keywords or a banned internet protocol address or a banned URL, a website address, the request simply won't get through and you'll get an error message.
Although the Chinese are developing cutting-edge filtering programs of their own, much of the technology comes from more familiar sources. Companies famous for providing open access to the net are now taking advantage of a bull market in censorship.
The market is being filled by companies primarily from Northern California, from Silicon Valley. There are also many Western corporations who provide internet services in China. Quite separate from the so-called Great Firewall of China, these companies were actually removing search terms that would be considered contentious in China. Any references to Falun Gong or Tibetan independence or Tiananmen Square, for example. And we found in our research that actually those companies censor more aggressively than the Chinese government itself in order to meet what they sense are the political demands of operating in China.
Tracking down evidence of internet censorship involves scouring the web, poring over data from around the world.
I suspect by the time that we're finished our analysis later this year that we'll have found maybe 40 countries have some form of internet filtering. There are other countries that are near to China in terms of the level of sophistication and the amount of effort that is put into it and the type of content that they target for blocking. I would include in that category Vietnam, Burma, Tunisia, Syria, Iran, and Uzbekistan.
As well as cataloging where it's taking place, the Citizen Lab team is developing ways to circumvent the censorship they uncover.
Naturally, the more you come to learn and understand how filtering systems work, the more you understand about how to get around them. For example, there is one system of circumvention that requires 3 different very large computer programs to be installed. And not only is this difficult for the average computer user, having that type of equipment on your computer could put you at some risk. So we wanted to create something that was very simple to use, that anyone could operate, and would be secure.
They designed a free, open-source software program called Siphon that can help solve this problem.
The way Siphon works is by having someone in an uncensored country, like say Canada or the United States, download the program on their home computer. And once they do that, it turns it into what's known as a proxy computer. And once the people connect to the Siphon-enabled computer, they can access banned content as if they were in Canada, and thus evade the firewalls of the country that they live in. And the entire transaction takes place through an SSL connection, which is simply an encrypted channel. So from the perspective of anyone monitoring the traffic, it looks for all intents and purposes like a financial transaction.
Siphon has been downloaded more than 200,000 times. There's no way to know who is actually using it or where they are, and that's key. With no central location or database, it's much harder for state censors to detect or block it.
And the idea here is you don't broadcast the information to the world and say, you know, anybody who wants to use my proxy, come over here, because that would alert the authorities and they would simply block it. You keep it quiet within what we call social networks of trust.
Stuck all those in the bottom.
The small crew at Citizen Lab won't soon be bringing down China's golden shield, but Siphon is enabling ordinary people to help others access the web.
There used to be a myth around the internet that it was indestructible, it was immune to regulation, and I've now come to see that this is simply not true, because we're going up against some of the world's most powerful corporations and the military intelligence organizations of some of the world's most powerful states. So it's a tough battle. We need to restore and protect the net as a forum for free expression and access to information.
For every complex system we create, new problems pop up. Even our sense that we control the way our systems work and expand may be an illusion. There is a system out there exploding so fast we can't even keep track. Yet it's changing just about everything it touches. What exactly is this ever-changing system we call the Internet? What does it look like? And just where can